Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead now and start painting all the gold parts, and I've given them a very thin paint over with black red. It's a very much a dark, sort of brownish red colour, which is a nice base for gold. And what I want to do on this one, I want to make the gold quite bright. So I'm going to start off with Sahara yellow with a little touch of burnt red, which is going to make this quite nice orangey tone, which will be the base for our shiny parts of the gold. So when the first part of this is, obviously I'm deciding that the light is coming from face on, so I'm going to want a big shiny area here, one up here, a smaller one here, and then one back here. And we'll work around the model in that way. So the first thing is just to, quite loosely, I just want to establish where these sort of shiny areas are going to be. And the front part of this neck decoration piece, I don't know what its exact name is, so we're going to get a nice shiny spot through here. But we want to leave some of this red-brown showing in certain spots because we want to build up contrast. So with metallics, the way they appear metallic is by having quite a big drop off from the light to dark colours. So you see very small bright highlights which give you the shine, and the dark or the shadowy areas, as we call them, will be very dark indeed. So we create these very bright areas that trick our eye into thinking that it's shiny, and that next to these very dark areas of shadowy tones gives us that real feeling of high contrast, which is what you'll find in metallic objects. Now, like most metals, we're going to try and paint in sticky uppy bits and edges and stuff. But this gold is going to be a little bit brighter than the gold we did on the Father. And whenever you're painting anything, don't be afraid to over highlight. I always think when you're painting it's better to go too far, make something too bright than not bright enough. Because at the end of the process, we can always tone things down, we can always glaze things back to reduce value and highlights. It's very hard at the end of a painting process to add more in. So never be afraid to go brighter than you think. Again, this paint's fairly thin, and we're just doing this with a nice moist brush, and we're just going to build up these quite orangey yellow highlights. And like I keep saying, at the moment I'm not worrying too much about blending or how smooth it is. I really just want to get these lights in the right place. And like we've done before here, if I see an area is not as bright as I want it to be, after it's dried, I just literally go back and add some more layers to it. And that just adds more of the colour. It will build up what we call opacity. So it will make the colour more solid, more vibrant certainly. If we're painting with thin paint, when this paint dries it will tend to dull quite a lot, which we want. We want it to sort of fade into the underneath colour. But on the other hand, if we want to build up to a colour, we have to add more layers. I'm usually pushing the paint to the area which I want to be brightest, as you see here, because that's where most of the paint will be deposited, at the end of the brush stroke. Okay, so we're going to put the first main light spot on now, and we're going to use pure Sahara yellow this time. So again, we want to make these highlights nice and small and bright. And just build up this highlight. We've got very thin layers of paint, and like I said before, we're just going to go over and put a layer on, and move away and let it dry. And if we want to make it lighter, we just go back with another layer. And this is what's going to give us our brightness and our saturation that we need. Because gold is quite bright. We really want it to look that sort of bright yellowy tone. So painting a pure yellow, or pure yellow colour, over these darker colours is not going to dry really bright. It will take several thin layers to get to that brightness that we want. So you just have to be patient and build those colours up. Right, for the last, well, one of the last highlights, we're going to start adding in pale yellow now, which will add a lot of brighter value to this gold, and we're really going to give it some sparkle now. And we're trying to move the lights, I want them right near the edges if I can. It's enough to give it that definition and that brightness that we want. Right guys, so the final highlight, we're going to add in pure pale yellow now, just to add some little dots, and these really are just little tiny dots. So we really want to try and just add those very small bright dots. Just adding little dots in different areas. It just makes it look like there's a little shiny, like the light is bouncing off of different areas. Okay, so the last step here is just to add some really small dark places to get a bit more contrast. So I've gone back to black red, and I've actually added a little bit of black into it. So it's really quite dark, and this, I'm putting this on very much, it's a very thin glaze. And all the parts that are in between where there's shadow or darker tones, I'm just trying to add a little bit of this darker tone just to force the contrast a little bit more. Now, it's not a huge amount, but it's just enough to make just a big difference in the contrast. You can also dark line some of these areas as well if you need to. Under that colour. And when I'm doing this, I'm putting very little on the brush, and then I'm drying it off as well. This just gives it that really dark shadowy areas in this gold.